Hey everyone, today I've got a heartfelt story to share, one about a resilient single mom named Dieuhan and her little boy Tom. It was early morning when Dieuhan, a devoted single mother, walked hand in hand with her little boy Tom along the familiar path to Aunt Koa's house. She hadn't visited in a while, and today her heart felt full of warmth and anticipation. As soon as Koa saw them at the gate, she rushed out with a big smile. "Where have you been, girl? I haven't seen you for days," she exclaimed. "I went to Vinlong to look for my birth parents," Han replied gently. "I just got back and thought I'd stop by." Inside the house, a man in his 30s was seated at the table. He smiled and nodded politely. Han, caught off guard, turned to Koa. "Who's that?" "That's Tho, my adopted son," Koa explained with pride. "He works in Saigon and barely has time to visit me." Tho smiled warmly. "Nice to meet you. Mom talks about you a lot." Their exchange was polite, a little awkward, until Koa, ever the matchmaker, dropped a bombshell. "You know Tho's a good man. Works hard, but no girlfriend, no family. I've been hoping he'd meet someone like you." Han laughed nervously. "Come on, I'm a single mom. No man wants that kind of complication." "Oh, don't say that." Koa smiled. "You're sweet. You deserve happiness too." The room went quiet for a beat before Koa casually asked, "So what's going on with Dan and Than?" "Anything serious? We're just friends," Han replied, but Koa pressed on. "I think Dan has real feelings for you." Before Han could respond, Koa suddenly turned to her again. "Well, now that Tho's here, why don't you two get to know each other?" The tension shot up instantly. "I don't think we're compatible," Kohan stammered. From across the room, Tho spoke up, tone sharp, voice firm. "She's right. We're not a match." Koa, unfazed, quipped, "Well, if you want me to invest in your life, Tho, at least bring home a daughter-in-law." Then she smiled and walked off to the kitchen, leaving Han and Tho alone. Silence, until Tho stood and said quietly, "Come with me. We need to talk." Outside, he turned to her, his voice low but intense. "Don't call me Ah. I go by Trin. And no, I don't like women." Han blinked, stunned. "Wait, what? I'm not into women," he repeated. "But I need your help. I'm opening a cafe in Saigon, and for some ridiculous reason, I need to have a girlfriend to get the funding. Pretend to be mine. Just for a bit." Han looked at him like he had grown two heads. "You want me to lie to Koa? I can't do that." Before the conversation could go further, Koa's voice echoed from inside. "What's going on out there?" Tho quickly covered. "She's just heading home, Mom." Han nodded. "Yes, sorry, I have something urgent at home." Koa looked disappointed but smiled anyway. "All right, dear. Come back soon." "Okay?" As Han stepped outside, she looked back at Tho, still unsure what just happened. No goodbyes, no closure, just questions. So many questions. It was a quiet afternoon, the kind where nothing feels urgent and time seems to move slowly. Than barely looked up when the doorbell rang. Probably a delivery, he thought. But when he opened the door, the world stopped. Standing there was Long, not a stranger, not just someone from his past. Long was the person who had shattered Than's trust, someone whose betrayal had left a wound so deep. Than wasn't sure it ever fully healed. For a few long seconds, they just stared at each other. Long looked calm. Maybe too calm, like he had every right to be there, like he hadn't completely wrecked Than's life years ago. "Than, how have you been?" Long's voice was quiet, almost gentle, and just like that, Than's chest tightened, Was he serious after disappearing without a trace? After breaking every bit of trust they'd built, after letting Dieuhan fall apart alone? Now he wanted to check in. Dieuhan felt the anger rise, a tidal wave crashing over years of silence. "You really have the nerve to ask me that," he snapped. "Where were you when everything fell apart?" "When I needed you the most." Long didn't back down. "I know I hurt you. I know you have every right to hate me. But I'm not here to pretend it didn't happen. I'm here to make things right, to explain." But Dieuhan was already shaking his head. "You think you can just show up and fix things with an apology? You broke something in me, Long. Something I've been trying to put back together ever since." Long's eyes held steady. "I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm just asking for a chance to talk." But the dam had broken. "I don't want to talk," Dieuhan shouted, his voice raw. "You abandoned me. You let me drown, and now you want to play hero." And in a flash of fury, Dieuhan shoved him. Long stumbled back, hitting the floor. Silence followed, heavy, sharp, unbearable. Breathing hard, Dieuhan stood over him. "Get out. I don't want to see you again." Long slowly sat up, brushing dust from his clothes. But there was no fight in him, no anger, just a quiet sadness. "I get it," he said softly. "I know I don't deserve anything from you. But if someday you're ready to hear the truth, I'll be here." Then, without another word, Long turned and walked out. Dieuhan didn't stop him. Couldn't. He stood frozen in the doorway, watching as Long disappeared into the fading light, and all that was left behind was silence. Not closure, not peace, just silence and a heart still trying to figure out what it wanted to feel. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of amber and gold, Dieuhan and her little boy Tom stepped back into their home after a long, draining day. The house welcomed them with its usual quiet hum, a stillness that wrapped around them like a familiar blanket. But something was different. In the kitchen, standing with his back turned, was Dieuhan. Focused, almost lost in motion, he was stirring a pot with the kind of concentration only someone emotionally exhausted could show. He didn't even notice them come in. Dieuhan watched him for a moment. He looked tired, not just from the cooking, but from everything. The day, the emotions, the weight of unspoken words. She glanced down at Tom, whose energy had clearly run out. "Come on, baby," she said softly, guiding him upstairs. "Let's get you to bed. We'll talk to Dieuhan later." Once Tom was tucked in and the house was quiet again, Dieuhan made her way back downstairs. The aroma of simmering food filled the air, warm, inviting. Dieuhan was still at it, clearly trying his best to hold everything together. She stepped closer. "Dieuhan," she said gently, "you should rest. Let me take over from here." He hesitated, eyes searching hers for a moment, before finally nodding and heading upstairs. No protest, just silent gratitude. Dieuhan moved around the kitchen with practiced ease, stirring, seasoning, setting the table. It wasn't about the food. It was about creating comfort, creating home. When everything was ready, she called out, "Dieuhan, dinner's done." Her voice was soft, but sure. A few minutes later, he came back down looking a little lighter, a little more at peace. They sat at the table. No big gestures, no rehearsed lines, just two people sharing a quiet meal at the end of an emotionally complicated day. And somehow, the silence turned into conversation, and the conversation turned into laughter. They talked about everything, about little moments that once seemed insignificant. Childhood stories, dumb jokes missed Chance's old wounds. There was no pressure, no expectations, just real human connection. Dieuhan opened up to sharing things he hadn't said out loud in a long time. His regrets, his victories, the way life had shaped him. They didn't need to say what this moment meant. It was already clear the food was simple, but the care in every gesture made it beautiful. As they sat together, plates nearly empty and hearts strangely full, there was an unspoken truth between them that no matter what the past held and no matter how uncertain the future was, this was real. This mattered, and maybe that was enough. Because sometimes healing doesn't come from grand apologies or big gestures. Sometimes it starts with a shared meal, a quiet laugh, and the simple realization that you're not alone anymore.
Họ ngồi xuống bàn ăn, không cử chỉ lớn lao, không lời thoại được chuẩn bị trước, chỉ là hai con người chia sẻ một bữa ăn lặng lẽ sau một ngày đầy cảm xúc lẫn lộn. Và bằng cách nào đó, sự im lặng dần hóa thành cuộc trò chuyện, rồi cuộc trò chuyện hóa thành tiếng cười. Họ nói về mọi thứ, những khoảnh khắc tưởng chừng vô nghĩa, chuyện thời thơ ấu, những câu chuyện ngớ ngẩn, những cơ hội đã bỏ lỡ, những vết thương cũ, không có áp lực, không có kỳ vọng, chỉ là sự kết nối thật sự giữa hai con người. Thành cũng mở lòng, chia sẻ những điều anh đã giữ trong lòng suốt một thời gian dài, những nuối tiếc, những chiến thắng nhỏ, những điều cuộc sống đã dạy cho anh. Họ không cần nói ra những khoảnh khắc có ý nghĩa gì, bởi điều đó đã có rõ ràng. Món ăn rất đơn giản, nhưng sự quan tâm trong từng hành động khiến nó trở nên đẹp đẽ. Khi họ ngồi bên nhau, đĩa gần như trống rỗng, nhưng trái tim lại đầy ắp cảm xúc. Có một sự thật không cần là lời nói giữa hai người, rằng bất kể quá khứ đã ra sao, bất kể tương lai còn nhiều mơ hồ, thì khoảnh khắc này là thật và nó quan trọng. Và có lẽ chỉ vậy thôi cũng là đủ rồi. Bởi vì đôi khi sự chữa lành không đến từ những lời xin lỗi hoa mỹ hay những hành động vĩ đại. Đôi khi nó bắt đầu từ những bữa cơm giản dị, một tiếng cười nhẹ nhàng và một sự nhận ra đơn giản bạn không còn đơn độc nữa.